A Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder, Chapter 10, Part 1. Hannah speared a piece of romaine lettuce with her fork and managed to glance at her watch. Only 5 minutes had passed since she'd closed the door of Norman's private office, and he'd already told her all about his appointment with Ron. Norman's account hadn't held any surprises. Ron had come in complaining of pain, and Norman had given him a shot of xylocaine. Ron hadn't wanted to take the time to repair the tooth right then, but he'd promised to come back to Norman's office right after he'd finished his deliveries. Of course, he hadn't come back. Ron had been killed before the shot had even begun to wear off. Did Ron seem nervous about anything? Hannah asked another question from the mental list she'd prepared. Norman chewed and swallowed. Not really. He was anxious about getting back to work, but that was all. Did he tell you how he cracked his tooth? He said he'd been in a fight, but I didn't press him for the details. Now I wish I had. That's okay, Norman. Hannah gave him her friendliest smile. You didn't have any way of knowing that Ron was going to leave here and get himself shot. I guess not. I wish I'd paid more attention, though. I could have asked him more questions about it when I examined him. He was in the chair for at least 20 minutes. I don't think that would have done much good. With his mouth propped open and that little rubber sheet covering his tongue, he couldn't have given you very much. It's called a rubber dam, Norman corrected her, and there was a gleam of humor in his eyes. You've got a point, Hannah. They taught us about conversing with patients in Dental Procedures 101. Never ask a question that can't be answered by or Hannah laughed. Norman's sense of humor was a pleasant surprise. Perhaps he wasn't so bad after all. And he'd certainly spruced up his father's clinic. The institutional green walls in the waiting room had been freshly painted with a coat of sunshine yellow. The dusty and faded Venetian blinds had been replaced with tie-back curtains in a sunflower print, and the old grey couch and hardback chairs had given way to a new set of matched furniture that would have looked lovely in any Lake Eden living room. The only things that hadn't changed were the copies of outdated magazines that were stacked in the new wooden magazine holder on the wall. You've done a lot with this place, Norman. Hannah glanced around Norman's office appreciatively. He'd kept his father's old desk, but it had been refinished with a light oak stain, and there was a fresh coat of pale blue paint on the walls. She looked down at the dark blue wall-to-wall carpeting and asked a question that had nothing to do with Ron's murder. Did you install the same carpeting in the examining room? Norman shook his head. I couldn't. The floors in there had to be washable. I replaced the linoleum and painted the walls, but that's about it. How about the windows? I ordered some fabric vertical blinds, but they haven't come in yet, and I'm looking for new artwork for the walls. That's good. That old Rockwell print of the boy in the dentist's waiting room used to scare me half to death when I was a kid. It scared me too, Norman admitted with a grin. He looked so miserable with that big white napkin tied around his jaw. I told Dad I didn't think it was a very good advertisement for painless dentistry, but he seemed to think that it was funny. Dental humor, I guess. Like I got my tongue wrapped around my eye tooth and I couldn't see what I was saying? That was one of Dad's favorites. Norman laughed and took another pecan chew from the bag that Hannah had brought. These cookies are really good, Hannah. Thanks. Next time I'll leave on the shelves and you'll get lots of new patients. I've already got that covered, Hannah. I'm going to send out tins of taffy for the holidays with my office number printed on the lids. Hannah laughed, but she reminded herself to get back on track with her questions. Norman seemed a lot different here in his office, and she was actually enjoying their visit. Did you notice anything unusual about Ron when he came in? Anything at all? No, I told you everything I could think of. I wish I could help you more, but Ron seemed like just an ordinary dental emergency to me. Will you call me right away if you remember anything else? Sure, Norman agreed. I know you're helping your brother-in-law solve this case, but I just don't have any more information to give you. Hold on, Norman. I haven't told anybody that I'm helping Bill. How did you guess? Nobody's that nosy about a 20-minute dental appointment, Norman pointed out. And when your mother told me that your sister's husband was working on the case, I just put two and two together. Please don't tell anyone, Norman. Relax, Hannah. I won't give you away. Do you have any other questions for me? Or can I ask you a question of my own? There's one more. Hannah took a deep breath. She had to find out if Norman had an alibi for the time of Ron's death. Did any other patients come in right after you treated Ron? Just one. It was another fissured molar, but it was a part of a bridge, so it was simple to repair. She was in and out in less than 30 minutes. Hannah felt strangely relieved that Norman had an alibi. She was really beginning to like him. All she had to do was check with Norman's second patient of the morning, and he'd be in the clear. I need to know her name, Norman. You don't know? How could I? Look, Norman, I know your patient list is confidential, but all I need is her name. I have to ask her if she saw Ron when she came in. Norman began to grin. I guess you haven't called your mother back yet.